And happy hacking. Welcome to WebDevCourses.tv. My name is Mark and I'll be your instructor, and it's time for some MongoDB. We are doing the 7 p.m. databases in CRUD, SQL and MongoDB, and today we are going to be working some more with MongoDB. I want to show you how to do, I got the right window open, how to do common things that you would do in SQL. Let's grab our local database here and connect to it. Happy Turkey Day for those of you who celebrate Thanksgiving. The house really smells of turkey. What's up, Magic Eagle? Alrighty, so we have a simple database here. I think where we left off last time was we had, I don't know why I have these. Let's just delete those. No idea what that's about. Okay, so we've got our config, which is the database itself. Local, here we go. Task list. I'm not sure why it's showing these extra collections. Okay, so we got to do and we got task list. What is going on here? Oh, this is a filter of the database. Hold on a second. Let me get in the right database. Task list. Okay. I thought that these were collections. These are other tables for things that I don't use anymore. Okay. So what we have here is we have tasks. We have to-dos. And so why do we have to-dos and tasks in the same place? I think I'm actually looking at the wrong one. I think I'm supposed to have tasks and users. There we go. So a common thing that you might have in SQL is the concept of a relation, where instead of actually having the information that you want in one of your tables, you have a reference to another table and to usually a primary key inside of that table. So you have the concept of like foreign keys and primary keys. We don't really have that concept in MongoDB as far as locking things down because we don't have schemas in that sense. But we do still have the ability to do the same thing where we can have, in this case, a user, right, who has an object ID, and then they could be linked back with the task list. So how would you return this sort of a join, which is really what it is, right? Monse, I don't have coffee, I don't have water, I don't have anything. Could I have something? Thank you. Okay. Definitely water so that I don't have the mouth thing. The first thing that you would generally do is a match, but I don't really care about matching right here. I'm just going to work with all of the data I have. So after the match, generally the second thing that you would do is a lookup. And the lookup is essentially a join. It doesn't quite work the way that you would expect in SQL. Like there's no right outer join or weird stuff like that. But you can do simple inner joins, /left joins. You can do right joins too, but the syntax is quite a bit different than SQL. Thank you, love. So the from is a collection that you're expecting this thing to be in. We're in the task list, so we're trying to relate back to the users. Our local field here is going to be user. And that's going to match up with, if we look at the document, we have a user and then it's an ID. So this is one place where the idiomatic way of writing MongoDB columns is different than it is in SQL. In SQL, you'd probably have like user underscore ID. Instead, we just have the key because this will be replaced with the actual thing. All right, so we've seen that it's the user here. What about over here? Well, it's the underscore ID because it's the primary key. And in Mongo, this primary key also has like the created at timestamp. It's also in there. All right, so back to our aggregation. Our foreign field is ID. That in quotes. And then we have to say what it is. Like what are we going to call this join? So it seems to me that we're going to join it as users, but there's only ever going to be one thing in here. And so it's strange that there always has to be one thing returned in an array, but this is sort of how Mongo works, where if you get no records, you get an empty array. If you get 0 records, that's your empty array. Otherwise, you have an array that has stuff in it. But if you want to fix it, you can. You can use something called project. And project allows you to just specify something that you're going to want in the previous aggregate lookup, the pipeline. And you're going to essentially reshape it. So right now it looks like this, underscore ID, title, user, users. So we could do something like this. We could say, okay, I still want the underscore ID. So we'll just say true. Or you could just say 1. I want that. I want the title. So that's also a 1. I want the user, but I don't want it to look like that. What I want is I want to get the first user. So what I can do is I can do one of these. I can do one of these commands where I say, I have an array. I want to operate on it by getting the first thing. And the first value here is for, what am I trying to get actually? The first for users. And now we have an object. Give me just 1 second. Alrighty. Okay, so we now have sort of fixed that problem. We don't have like a user object that has a key, and we have this users array that has one thing. We just have a single document that we got back out. It has the original ID. It has the title. It has a single user now. It maintains the ID in case we still need it from elsewhere. But now we also have whatever fields are inside of that. And we could test this. We could say something like, let's edit this object. And let's say not only do we have the name of Mark, but let's have a role. And this person is, I don't know, manager. We're going to leave it as a string, and we'll add a role here too. Actually, let's leave them without a role. So we're going to update this. Now we have a role here. We don't have a role here. We're not going to see the role because we never projected it. We need to get, actually, we should see it eventually when it updates. Chris Logins. Why is it? Oh, because they're both assigned to Chris. Is there nothing assigned to me, maybe? Let's look in our documents. Nope, everything is assigned to Chris. So let's just copy one of these. We're going to duplicate it. We're going to tell it to tell Chris clean his room. And we need my ID. For now, I'll just do that. And then I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to grab my ID. Also, I'm going to change this just so that we don't get in trouble for doxing or whatever. So we got Mark, Mark, and Chris, Chris. Okay, so we have Mark, Mark, Chris, Chris. One of them has a role, one of them does not. And now we have something here. We just need to get Mark's ID. Bring it over to here. We're going to edit this one. We just have to change the user. Now we go back to our aggregation. And we can run it. And we can edit it. And now we should see another user here somewhere. Let's see, this is Chris still. Chris, where is mine? I should have a task here because I have a task here. It should be showing up here and it's not. Oh, because I have to hit this one. How many different things do I have to hit? There it is. Now it's in my pipeline. So now I can run my pipeline. Go back to my edit and I should have more. So I've got this user. We're mapping the users. Why would I only have, oh, sample of 2 documents? It's not actually showing me all the documents. If I wanted to sort this, I could just do add a sort here. Wait, what just happened? I need to add another one, drag it up, call this a sort. And let's just sort by ID -1. Okay, there we go. Now we're getting the most recent one first. So when we come down here, we're going to get my user and you're going to get my role. And over here, you're going to get Chris and you're not going to see the role. Thank you, love. And this is actually by design. This is why we don't need schemas. The application in Mongo, in the case of MongoDB, when you're using it for like web development, the Mongo database is supposed to map directly to your application data structure. It's not supposed to be a different thing. In the SQL world, the shape of your database is determined by the data. In the MongoDB world, when it's for like a web application, the web application shapes the data inside of Mongo, and also a little bit of the data itself, like whether you need a snapshot of some data, like at this point in time, this is what this user record looked like, or a reference where you're like, okay, the user updated their information later on, but we still want to get like their latest information. So you have to know if you want snapshot or if you want like the live data. But other than that, it's really just JSON objects all the way down. Very little is better than a fresh cappuccino. Okay, so we have sorted by the ID, which I told you is the created date. So if you wanted to sort ascending, you could go in the direction like this. And if you want to sort descending, you just go in this direction. And you can sort by any of the fields. We're going to join in the users. Now we get this array of things, plus we still have this ID. And then we do a projection so that we just get the fields that we want. This is how we shape our interface. So how would you use this? Well, you can click export to language and you can go to node and you can copy this. I don't have a node project set up at the moment, actually. I do have, what am I looking at there? You go away. What I do have, I guess, is a sneak peek of something we're doing for the next hour, which is the video game. This is what your pipeline would look like. So you would basically, you'd have code that would look like this. You would be awaiting a DB connection. When the DB connection happens, then the outside await will call. You go to your database. Generally, your connection string tells you the database. If it doesn't, you can put the database in here. Then you're going to call collection, and you're going to say what collection are you operating on. In our case, we're operating on what? Task list, tasks. So it would be tasks. And then you would call aggregate. And that's where the magic is. That's where the array happens that we're about to paste in. So it's an array, which means it's going to be multiple steps. That's why it's a pipeline. We're going to first perform a sort. We're going to then perform a lookup. And we're going to then perform a project. And you can see it's just JavaScript objects. So like if you wanted to reuse code, if you wanted to say, look, this is the lookup that we always use whenever we connect like to the user, you could just turn that into a function that returns you this key and you have it anytime you want. Super, super useful, super easy. Way easier than dealing with schemas and SQL for sure. Hi, your room isn't dirty. You could appreciate a clean room. I think that was why I used you as the example. Anybody else would be like, so? You'd be like, right on it. I don't want to be told my room is dirty. Let me ask you this. Is there anything that mystifies you in Mongo that you want me to talk about? I'm just going to keep building stuff to kind of like get around to where we would have something that's sort of complicated. All right, so we got users, we got tasks. What if the users belong to a company or an account? Let's add accounts. Let's turn this into a SaaS thing. So now we've got an accounts collection. In our accounts collection, we're going to have something that's like, what's the name? It's Acme, of course. And where is it based? What is it? Toonville, Toonland? Where the hell is the place that the Toons live? Toontown. All right, so Acme Inc., Toontown. This is now going to be essentially another link, right? So our users would now have some sort of an account, but also our tasks could have some sort of an account. So you could have like a global filter that will always filter everything by account first if you always have that key in there. So let's create two accounts just so that we have two different things going on. Let's just duplicate this one. Let's change this to Intel Inc. And I think it's in Washington. I don't know. They're in California, Washington, Oregon, Idaho. They're all over the place. I'm not sure. I think actually maybe California these days. Who knows why you'd want to be in California if you're doing business, but whatever. So Intel, well, it's from the previous before Apple generation, and they were all in that place. I think Microsoft was the first real one that was like outside of the Silicon area. Alrighty, so you've got now two different organizations, two different IDs, two different users. Let's just make each user have a different account. So I'll be part of Toontown. We just add a field called account. And I would just set it as a string at first and then change it. That's the easiest way to do it. By the way, this is Compass that I'm using. It's the free tool. And we're also going to come over here and grab Intel's ID. And Chris just got recruited to Intel. Sorry, man. You have to wear a black shirt and a white shirt and a black tie. And it's got to be a thin tie. It can't be a thick tie. You're not allowed to do a double knot. It has to be a single regular slip knot. All right. So, well, that's the way it was back in, when Santa Claus was a kid and I was working there. So we've got two user. They are in different accounts. Let's also segregate the data essentially so that you can always make sure like one customer is not accidentally getting somebody else's data. This is one of the ways that you handle this. So we're also going to add an account to this. And even though the user is already linked, you'd still do this. Otherwise, you always have to join this thing to that thing to another thing to look at the thing. And it's just not worth it. So that's also an object ID. We're going to update that. That's the right object ID, though. Add another one so we can keep our accounts open. It ends in 2, it's Intel. Yes, that would be correct. And that one would be correct too. Count, make it a string, make it an object. Update, update. That's a cancel. And then Toontown, because we're dealing with my clown self. I identify as a clown, so you have to call me clown self. Account object ID. There we go. So now we can specify like tasks by account or users by account, and I think that's kind of cool. Let's actually add that into our aggregation, right? We forgot to save. I forgot to save the aggregation, so it's gone. Is it here? No, it's gone. Well, that's also the users. Yeah, because I jumped around. I wasn't supposed to like leave tasks. Is it here? No, it's gone. Okay. Let's do that again. Let's aggregate the users to the tasks and also to the accounts. So I think the first thing that we would do is we'd have a lookup, because we want to make sure that everything that we're getting, not lookup, a match. We want to make sure that we're getting is only for the account that we want. So we can say that the account is going to be an object ID that looks like this. You got to spell it right. So now we're going to get Chris because that's the only account that matches. We had a stage, we had our lookup. Users. Also, we can do this. We can just copy this. And we can say create new pipeline from text. Create new. Yes, I want to overwrite. It's quicker just to add our stage here. How many stages did I add? Too many. Quicker just to add a stage and drag it up. So match. Match on the account where it's an object ID of, not that whole thing. Okay, so we are projecting the user, we're projecting the title. Why aren't we getting our values? Sort negatively, do the lookup. We're looking up on users. That matches one user, sorts them. Now we're matching to the thing, yeah. Okay. It didn't map to the users. Wait. This is the users. Let's map it to the tasks. It's going to be, oh, we can't go this way. All right, let's do this. Let's export to a language. Let's export to Node. Let's get on the right table, because I'm not even on the right table. Tasks, we're going from tasks. So aggregations, create new from pipe text. Create a new one. Yeah. Just give it to me. There we go. So this would be going from the direction of the task to the user. That's easy. This one, though, let's actually save that too. Where's the save? Save as user. How about tasks or account with user? Something like that. All right, so this one, we want to go in the other direction. We're trying to get the tasks for this user. So the local field here will be the ID. And over there, it's going to be user. And this is going to be as tasks. Now, tasks can totally be an array because that's what they are. And since we're already having the user here, like I don't really see any reason to like rejoin it to each of the sub objects. It would be suboptimal in the way that it performs. So let's save that too. That is save user tasks by account All right, so we can do task by user, task by accounts. What else? Oh yeah, we can get the user inside of the task. I mean, honestly, that's most of what you would do with a website and a database. The whole, like, all the right joins and stuff, that's when you're creating complex data for like charts and stuff. It's very, very rarely ever going to be for a website. And it's not necessarily fun to write, but the query language for MongoDB certainly supports all that stuff. Alrighty, so we joined one way. We join the other way. Would it be useful to see? Should I draw it out in Photoshop so you can see? I mean, a user has many tasks and they're scoped to an account. It doesn't seem that complicated yet. Let's get into something complicated. Instead of task list, let's just rename this. Can I rename it? No, it's going to make me drop it and bring it back. Let's just create a new one. We're going to create a new database. And let's do something kind of complicated. If you do a shopping cart right, if you do a store correctly, it's sort of complicated. Like, I worked at Shopify for quite a while doing some really nasty liquid code in Ruby. And it's a horrible mess in the sense of, like, it's difficult because there's all these options and option groups and price modifications and all of this stuff. But it's so easy. It's so easy in Mongo. It would have been so hard. Okay, so what do we have here? We have a store. Store example. Actually, let's just name our database based on what we're calling this. So this is intro to databases. And of course, this is the Mongo one. We have to start with a collection. Items. Let's call them products. Okay, we have a database. It's going to be hard to miss it this time. We've got products. In SQL, you'd probably just start like naming nouns. And you basically have a table for every noun. And then you would link all the stuff together using joins. It's not really how we do it here. Let's create a product so that we could sort of like let the document come out on its own. What do I mean by that? Well, we're going to need a product name, a title, a headline. Like, it's got to have something, right? Just call it name. We're going to need a product name. What's it going to be called? It's going to be called Nuka Turkey. I've been playing Fallout again. Nuka Turkey. So we're gonna have a Nuka Turkey. It's gonna have, see, like you'd have like a price, but that'd be like the base price. Let's do a base price on this turkey. The base price on this turkey is it's 100, whatever the credits are. If you have decimals, you'd have to add the decimals in there so that you keep it as an integer. Let's say that we have two integers or two decimals and it's 100. So that's what you would get, is 10,000. That's the base price. What if it had options? Well, let's call it a Nuka Turkey dinner for two. A romantic Nuka turkey dinner for two. Okay, so now we're down to the options. This is where it gets interesting. You could make it a hash, but then what you'd have is like a bunch of keys with nothing inside of it if they didn't choose the option. So to me, this is an array. This is where people's understanding of this start to fall apart, because they'll say, okay, well, it's an array. Wouldn't each of these things need to have a key? And it depends. In SQL, everything would have a key. In SQL, everything would be normalized into its own table, its own noun collection, and they would all have IDs. And then you would refer back, but that's not really something that we do in Mongo. So the only reason why you would need to put an ID here is if this option is being shared by somewhere else, by some other thing. So it could very well have an option. I don't know yet. For now, let's focus on what I do know. I know that this is going to be... Let's give it an option where it has the name of something like, let's call it a Nuka turkey dinner for 2. Let's call it Nuka turkey dinner. And then the options are going to actually determine the name of it. So it's a Nuka turkey dinner if you don't get anything else. You could add the romantic option though. If you add the romantic option, it would have a price modifier. You'd have to figure out, is it a flat price increase? Is it a percentage increase? So maybe you have a price, but then you would have a type of modifier. Whoops. I think I already have that brace. Okay, so what would a price modifier look like? Well, you'd have a type. And the type would be, is it $1 off? Is it a percentage? Like, what is it? What is this thing we're talking about? What is it? Tell me, I want to know. What's in the box? So the type here would be something like dollars off. The amount or the value, I would say, would be something like, say it's, actually this wouldn't be definitely $1 off. This could be just $1 amount. And it wouldn't necessarily always be dollars. It might be another currency. If I said units, would I understand? I want to like make this like you have to pay more for this. It's not a discount. It's a price modifier. So price modifiers. This one is a type. Let's just leave it at dollars. And it's if you put a negative amount, it would be a discount. If you put a positive amount, it's not. So we could say that you would have to pay an extra, I don't know, 200. So what is it? It's 100 right now. You'd have to pay another 100. Okay, so we have a Nuka turkey dinner that has some options. One of those options is a romantic option, and that contains its own price modifiers. Let's just insert it and see what we get. So this right here, we do not want it to be a string. We want it to be an int. 32, I guess, is okay. Although we'd have to cast that on the way in, otherwise it would just become a string again. Funny, this one is an int32. I wonder why this one didn't pick int32 automatic. Or maybe when I made this one, it also thought about this and figured it out. I don't know. Anyway, it seems to be fine now. It's the correct values. So that's how I would build out that schema. You'd have the base price, you have modifiers. What if you have another one? Like what if you had to share modifiers? What if you wanted to have like small, medium, large sort of thing, and it was shared with a whole bunch of things? Let's actually add something to this that would be shared. So we've got options. And one of those options is the price modifier. What if we had another option Let's see, that's the romantic option for the turkey dinner. What if we had an option that was like support a charity? Because that could be like across any product, right? So let's just add another option. Be easier to work with it like this, like this. Okay, so we're gonna have another option. Let's just add it. Add item after 0. This one also is going to have a name. Wait, it's supposed to be an object. Be the right thing. Damn you, be the right thing. There we go. Okay, so this thing is going to have a name. And the name of it is going to be support homeless pets. Nothing political, just something everybody except for maybe people who eat animals like that could get behind. Alrighty. So we got our name. We're going to have a price modifier, right? And we're going to make it a price modifiers because that's what the other ones are. And let's make it an array. And we're going to have, sorry, it's not supposed to be an array, it's supposed to be an object. Now, we're cheating here. We're writing the code directly in Mongo because this isn't a course on like how to write the JavaScript to this. We will do that in modern web development, which is at 9 a.m. Another day, maybe like day 4, day 5, we might connect to a database. We're on day 2, I think, right now. So that's why I'm showing you how to do it here. But honestly, these things would come from your application, which is sort of the thing that would actually define what the data structure is. And that's why you wouldn't need a schema. Right now, it looks like I'm basically creating a schema. I would say that I'm creating an example piece of data, and I'm trying to work through as many of the problems as I can. And then I'll use this example piece of data as like the state for the thing that I'm building, a React app or something. All right, so we got price modifiers, type, and this is going to be dollars too. And another field value. And we're going to do something like, well, just another 100. 100 and then 2 more. Make that an int 32. What's seriously int 32 and int 34 or 64? Just the size of it. Like these tiny piddly little numbers, like they'll fit in 32 bits. No problem. If you start getting like 18 decimals like you would have with Ethereum or something, it starts to become a problem and you have to actually think about what size the number is, but we don't here. So let's say that this thing right here, this object, it also has an ID. The other ones don't have an ID, but this one does because it's in another collection. It's defined in another collection. In fact, let's do that. Let's say that we have another collection, and we're going to call this support campaigns. So we've got support campaigns. We're going to create support homeless pets. Add another piece of data. No, insert document. All right, so the name of this is support people homeless pets, and it comes with maybe a price modifier. And that price modifier is an object, and it has a name. No, it has a type. It has a type. The type is dollars. And we're going to have an amount. Is it amount or value? I prefer amount here. The amount is going to be 100, 12, so $100. So now we have a price modifier on this thing. We have this object ID. Here's what I would do. I'll go back to here and I would say that sometimes you get an object like this. Sometimes you get an object get rid of that one. Let's add a new one. And the new one is going to be the ID, right? So price modifiers object. Wait a minute, why would price modifiers be an object? That's what was throwing me off. That would have to be a price modifier because it's an object, not an array. If it was an array, it would have an S, but it doesn't. So we got another one. This one instead of this, let's just delete it. Delete you, update. I don't have to do the edit in between, but it's easier for me to figure out where I'm at. Okay, so then we got this other one. But it's a little bit different. It has a name. Am I not in the right place? I'm not in the right place. It's supposed to be here. There we go. Now we got our one. All right. So this thing is supposed to be an object ID. There we go. So we could get like an object. This one won't need to be replaced. Or we could have a reference to any table, really. But we sort of can't do this because this doesn't tell us like where is this object ID. And that's where you get something called polymorphism. So let's just change this so that's polymorphic. Let's say that it has a collection key. It's an object. It has a collection. The collection is going to be support campaigns, and it's going to have an ID, and we'll just call that. We just call it ID. Let's just call it campaign. No, because we're trying to generalize it. So collection, yeah, let's call it ID. So there's our ID, object ID. So if you just had an object ID, you would be looking for something that's inside of here. Or maybe something that's somewhere else, but you don't really know like what, or you know ahead of time exactly what collection that you're binding it to. In this case, we don't really know what the collection is that we're binding it to as like a developer, and so we just store it directly inside of here. And so now we know we're essentially doing a join polymorphically. We could join it to any table as long as it has an ID. So there's some shenanigans with creating like products for a store using MongoDB. We're going to continue with this example on, I think day 3 is the next one. I think today was day 2. We're going to continue with the store example. And at some point, we'll probably have to hook up some JavaScript to it just so that we can query we can query Mongo here and we can query Mongo here. But sometimes it just feels better if you can actually hit it with some JavaScript. Alrighty, channel health. I want to thank Thomas Lawrenson for his tip. It's really awesome that he gave us his tip. Chris, I know that Chris doesn't have tons of money. He's looking for work, and he was kicking our channel down for several classes. So we really, really appreciate that. I know how hard it is out there. It's my goal to help you guys get work, get better jobs, be able to pass those job interviews. At some point, if enough people tell me they need job interview assistance and they need a place to do this sort of thing, have these conversations, I will make sure that one of the 6 things on the schedule is for that. I want to thank Joshua Vaughn for just being a friend of the channel and being potentially a business partner of mine. And of course, Julie Little and Ryan Bent for sending consulting work my way so that I can have just enough consulting work to keep me in beans and rice. And then the rest of the time I get to hang out with you wonderful people on Twitch and on YouTube, and we just had to buy an SSD because my SSD died. So if you feel like supporting the show, you want to do it monetarily, there is a link in the description, and you can also just shoot that QR code. And let's talk about tonight. Schedule tonight. Excuse me. Build an RPG game using JavaScript. I'm super, super excited for this one. Yeah, we're going to be using Canvas. I haven't used Canvas in about 10 years. And I've never tried to turn Canvas functional, and that's what I want to do. I want to take an imperative library like Canvas and do sort of the same thing that React did with the DOM, do it for Canvas, so that we can make a cool RPG game, top down, like JRPG, Pokemon adventure game style game. It'll be starting here in about 15 minutes. So I hope you guys will join us. Love ya.